Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And so today we've had a lot of requests for this. So we thought we'd do a quick little episode on just our thoughts. And it is what do you do in a Dynasty auction startup draft? We've done Dynasty startup drafts. We have one Dynasty league right now that's I think in year 10. We've been doing it for a while. So we did an initial startup draft years ago. We did one with listeners, I think, last year. That's still running. We've done a few over the time. So we have different strategies for that. But Dynasty auction, that's a whole different beast. That's a whole different thing. So we've been talking about it before we clicked record on what we would do and what do you do to create this team? But it is like Snake. There are different ways. Are you going to go win now? Are you going to play for the future? Are you going to go this middle ground? There's all kind of things you can do. I don't know what's best, Jeff. And how do you approach this in an auction?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I always like to go for the future in some sort of way, right? Because you don't want to be. You can do win right now, and I think that there is players in here for auction you can get for a very good price, and you can make a very good roster. I would love to make it a little more for the future and then fill in with those guys. Mm-hmm. And you'll get a better idea when we go through with this. But I have a hard time doing the win now, only because if you miss that window, it is very hard to rebuild.
In a rough spot, yeah.
So, but knowing that, you also know that running backs are a big part of winning in general. And they are the most expensive players usually, or very close to it, and they usually have a shorter lifespan. So for me, I still like the idea of going really, really big for wide receiver, and then fill in with some older running backs that are still good, and then filling in everywhere else where I think you can give yourself a win now, but you have a base that will keep on going. And that is probably where I would go, but I can't be the only one with that outlook. So you would have to know which players in particular you feel good about investing in for the next, you really want to get 5-6 years out of them.
I try to do a hybrid too. I feel like I don't necessarily want to go all future because how do we know who's really going to be good? Win now, like you're right. Win now is tough because if you go all for the veterans, these kind of guys, you could be in a rough spot. But I would say also, I think in Dynasty, just in general, I think future is just overblown. Just the people thinking about the future in Dynasty is almost overblown in general. Football's lifespan is not long on these guys. But let's say you go into a Dynasty auction. I think if you just want to build a team to win right now, I think it's easier in an auction Dynasty startup than it is in a snake draft. I think it's way easier to do it in an auction. But I would say let's throw a couple scenarios. If you're going to go for hey, I'm just going to plan for the future. I think you spend your money, a huge portion of your money it's all quarterback and receiver. You're going to spend big for a quarterback in this. If you're going hey, I want to have a good future here, but because there's a lot of good young quarterbacks in the league, they're going to play for another 10 years. That's easy. Go spend big, and Mahomes should go for a lot. Mahomes should be ridiculous, to be honest with you. He has how many years he's going to do this for?
Well, yeah, he's going to be 28 this year. He's not quite 28 yet, but I mean, we saw what Tom Brady was able to do. I'm not saying they're the same person, but you would have to think that he has another 7 years of being elite if he wants to play.
He'll go, that's worst case.
He's not a scrambling guy either, so that's why I'm okay, a 28-year-old Patrick Mahomes or a 25-year-old Jalen Hurts.
I think I want Mahomes.
Yeah, I would too. I think that he probably has
I would go, you get Mahomes, you try to get a couple top-notch receivers that are slightly on the younger side. Like the Tyreeks get a little more up there. You don't want that necessarily, but then that's it. I would just go for that, to be honest with you. And then running backs, if I'm going for I really want to build, this is going to be a team that's going to sustain itself for a long time, I'm spending probably nothing on running backs. If I'm going I think you can get a couple of those big guys that are going to be around and then go nothing on running backs because you never know who's going to pop up.
Yeah.
And the lifespan is so short on those. Think about we've been doing the podcast for a few years, right? The guys we talked about back then, the top guys, Todd Gurley, Zeke, all these, they're not around.
No, it goes that quick. They were amazing. They won you leagues, but you had, and even how many of them were great for 1 year, then were injured or just weren't as good, and then came back to prominence. I mean, that was Gurley, that was Saquon, that was And I mean, Fournette is still, I mean, now he's a free agent.
But I think you're right. You go for, I think you can do this like middle ground where you get a really solid young quarterback. You get a top-notch receiver, at least one. Go for a couple mid-tier receivers maybe that are young, but that's it. I think you fill in the rest because some veterans at running back can go for cheap that you just fill in for a year or two, and that's it. You can make that work. I really think that's kind of how I would try to approach it. I need the quarterback and receiver. I think a lot of people will feel that way, but just go get it done. Yeah. I'm not going to spend pretty much anything on running backs because they just don't last.
No, I mean, and you can make a very compelling case for going big money off of Bijan, right? Because we both believe that he is going to be that guy where you're like, okay, he's my number one running back for the next, once again, 5 years, but I can't plan any more than that because he's going to hit the ground running. If he gets injured, I lose one of those years, but I will be very set. I mean, Breece Hall came out of the gate smoking, and he's still number 2 overall as far as dynasty ranks usually go for running back. And he already lost the first, his first season to injury.
Yeah. Well, if you look at some of the sure thing guys from the past, Saquon, right? Sure thing, but he's already played 5 years and only 3 of them were over 1,000 yards. He was, a lot of these like running backs, we talked about the rookies, they were great right away. Yeah. Year one's pretty good, but he's been good on and off since then. Leonard Fournette, how about that? He was a sure thing, right? Mm-hmm. He had a really good first year, and now he's just nothing, right? He only had 2 seasons over 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley, back-to-back, number 1 running back essentially. Won leagues all over the place. Just out of the league, and he's not even 30. He's 29. He's 29 today. Todd Gurley is 29 right now. When's the last time we thought about Todd Gurley? He hasn't even, he played in 2020. Todd Gurley last played in 2020 at 26 years old. That's insane. He was that good. He was the number 1 running back. He was an MVP candidate. He was Offensive Player of the Year in 2017, 2018. 2 years later, he's out of the league. It's unreal.
It is unreal. Another one to make that point, because we love to bring this up. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had to have been the number 1 rookie on the board. I don't know what that would have priced him at. My guess he would probably be in the 30s if you were doing a $200 budget in a 10-person league. Now, 2 years removed? 2, right?
Yeah.
His auction value is $1.32. I know that is, so he's a $2 value for someone that you were like, this is my future.
So think about this. If I'm doing a dynasty auction startup draft, how can I spend any of my budget on running backs? Unless I'm kind of built for right now. I know what I'm doing. All right, I'm on a 3-year window. That's how you do it. Yeah. If you go into that knowing, all right, this is 3 years. This is what I got. And then I got to figure it out after that. Then maybe spend a couple more dollars on running back. But don't go into that thinking you get some long-term plan. So for me, I'm not spending on like Bijan in this, not in this, because I think I want to save my money and load up on some of these young receivers. Make sure my money goes to the quarterback, and maybe I get Jefferson, Chase, go big time.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And if you just went for the amount, like the true amount that they're worth, it'd probably go a little more than that because everyone wants that for the longevity. But the age of the person is big too. Yeah. Like when we did ours, how many years ago, I was definitely very conscious of, all right, I'm taking guys younger, not only because, because I can have them for a longer period of time, but you already know that, injury, anything like that doesn't completely derail their career. So like Justin Jefferson right now is 24 years old. He's going for $42, right? Once again, $200 budget. $42. That doesn't seem bad at all. Same thing with Jamar Chase. He's he's kind of a year younger than him, not quite. You could pair those two guys together and get them both for $83.
Go spend all your money on them.
Right.
Spend all your money on that and a quarterback, and then just fill in the rest. That's what I would do, to be honest with you.
It doesn't feel that crazy. I mean, then Garrett Wilson, which we really, really love too, is 37. So between those 3 guys, you could spend $140 if they went for, perfect, whatever their value was. $140, that means you have $60 left to spread it out. I know that doesn't sound like a lot. And this is where we get into trouble, because if you want that QB, you would have to spend for him, right? You're looking for mid-20s in order to do that. But you can get old running backs and make it work, and that would be fine. Tight end, that one's hard. I me personally, I like trying to find them, but you have to be able to be very patient and wait for them and grab guys like right now. Actually, that'd be a great one. If I'm looking at the tight end position,
tight end.
Travis Kelce, because he's going to be 34 years old, he is going to be the third tight end that, for value. He's still going for $22 about.
So
Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews are technically above him.
You're basically saying you could easily draft a win now team in a dynasty if you want to go that way. Like a 2 year, you could probably draft a team with a 2 year window if you wanted to.
Even that $21, if you're looking at Travis Kelce and you're like, how many years do you have left? You'd start wondering how many people are actually going to be willing to pony that up.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you're willing to wait, I mean, Sam Laporta for Detroit, Greg Dulcich, these guys are going for $3 to $4. And those guys are much more of they probably will work out quicker.
Yeah. I get a couple young tight ends, spend your money there. Not the crazy amounts, but spend your money on a top-notch quarterback like a Mahomes. One of those. Mahomes obviously is ideal, but a top Mahomes, you can go Allen, you can go Burrow, you can go Lawrence. I want one of those kind of guys. Actually those guys. I want the guys that don't rely on their legs in a dynasty. To be honest, if I'm going big, and then I'm going to go big on the receivers.
Yeah, and if you're looking at it too, here's the QB list, right? And I truly want to get your opinion on this because it is just like any other auction, right? Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen are going to be the top three, and then there's a big drop off right there. That goes anywhere from $25 to $28 up to Mahomes, and then we have in the next tier, if you will, is going to be Burrow at the top of it at 19, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Fields. And Justin Fields is about $14.
Mm-hmm.
So 14 and 19 in that tier. Once again, Lamar and Justin Fields, two guys that rely on their legs. Both phenomenal. Fields, obviously, 24 years old. Lamar, 26 and a half. Then underneath that, we have, it just goes down from there. But even here's the thing, even a win now, even though you could definitely do that, you can get Aaron Rodgers for $2, supposedly. And I will say this, the great thing about this is for auction, it becomes difficult to find guys.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do a win now, or if you get guys that are old that are going to fill in, if you get too many of them, the next year you are in a real place where you could have too many holes in your team to win.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of I would love to get two guys that are really high up there as far as wide receivers. I would love to get three, but am I putting myself in a position where that is just not attainable?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Dynasty auction, I want to go more of it's studs and duds for me. I want these guys that are the young studs and because I don't care about the rest, because honestly, it turns over so much. It turns over so much that it doesn't matter. I'll figure that out. You get draft picks every year, work the waiver wire, do all of that. Get the big time guys that you know are going to be playing for another more than 5 years, right? And going to be set for a long time. Speaking of our dynasty draft that we did, our startup in 2014, I just pulled it up. I was just curious how you did. You drafted Travis Kelce in round 40 or 21.
Yeah, I did very well. I think
round 21, Travis Kelce.
Three titles in that.
Yeah, and he's one of the few guys you got left.
Yeah, and it was funny.
Probably one of the few guys left in the entire league.
I think I took it on the chin the very immediately after we got done drafting, because I did put an emphasis on guys that maybe didn't break out yet, and I just happened to be good at picking at least a few of them. I will say this though, it's funny because that first year it took a little bit to get going, and I missed the playoffs by one game.
You did. You went 7-6 in year one.
Yeah. So
you didn't quite have it there. Year two, you finished third place, but you had the best record in the league already at 10-3.
Yep.
So you did that kind of middle road where you got some young guys. You were good. You were competitive first year, but year two, you really came up, finished third, and then you won in year three.
Yeah.
And then you finished third in year four, and then you won in year five. So you definitely
Then I think I took it on the chin for injuries, and then I think
you won again in year seven.
It was every other year. Yeah. It's really bizarre. And I also
finally.
And then but you do have to figure that out too, because when you end up having this one will set your whole team up, and then you only have rookie drafts, and then obviously you can get free agents. But those rookie drafts are very important, and we do end up trading picks and doing all this crazy stuff. It's really fun. But that is where, for Najee Harris, You can say whatever you want. He wasn't the guy we were hoping he would be as of yet, but he was very solid. He gets a lot of work. I traded like 3 first-round picks in a row in order to get him because I knew that would fill a spot for years to come, and I didn't want to wait around for because honestly, like the first 3 picks are going to be it. Like they're guys that are going to insert and do really well. That's the Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs.
You got those guys every year, so that's why they don't spend on running back.
Right. But if you know you're going to be good, I also knew back end if I'm going to be anywhere from 7 to 10. So that's where you end up getting. But that's why you can't leave too many holes. But at the same time, there is some really good young talent out here that you could really fill up a team. But I would definitely go wide receiver heavy. That would be my
it makes me want to do a dynasty auction startup. But
kept
too many Johnny. I can't try to stop the urge of having another dynasty league because they're fun. But all right, I think that's it for today. We want to talk that out a little bit. Haven't done one yet, but it's really, I'm kind of curious now. So if you guys are doing your drafts, let us know how they go. So, all right, that'll be it. Talk to you guys next time.